who's actually done it from a position of practice, not just theory. And certainly not just academic warped commie theory, which is what we're getting from the other side these days. There has never been a greater divide between the two parties. There's never been a greater divide between those ideologies. And candidly, we can't recognize much of the other side. When I see the mainstream ideals of socialism and communism actually being pushed, I know we say this as a joke and everyone's laughing, but it's not a joke. It's actually a part of that platform today. I wrote about it in the book. Our mother escaped communist Czechoslovakia. Okay, our grandfather and our grandparents, they took us there at a young age so we could see what it was actually like, so we could understand the blessings and the good fortunes that we have being Americans with our freedoms. And I always say, the Democrats can get someone to get on this stage right now and tell you that spending $93 trillion, just minor details, 15 times U.S. government revenue to prevent farting cows and air travel is a brilliant, brilliant plan. They can get you to do that, but they can't find anyone who's actually grew up under those systems. Not someone from Russia, former Soviet Union, not someone from China, not someone from Venezuela, not someone from Cuba who says, no, 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 let's bring that stuff here. That's what this election's about. That's what we're up against, and that's why we have to send a loud and clear mandate. So it is great to be back in the state. I look forward to caucusing, especially now that I know what I'm actually doing when they give me the mic tonight. It'll be a lot of fun, and I promise you one thing, over the next 10 months, Donald Trump will make this very, very entertaining for you all. Thank you, guys. Great to be back in Iowa.
I know some of you have a long drive you're going to take off. We're still going to answer, we're going to take a few questions from the media. If the media can be calm and more organized than normal. Say that nicely. But I know some of you might have long drives. Feel free if you have to take off. We have more media questions. Go ahead.
Kyle Meza from UNF News. So what has Iowans said to you when you were caucusing with them? What has Americans said about Donald Trump that's important to the American people?
Honestly, what I see the most, and again, I spend a lot of time in actual flyover country. I mean, whether it's my hobbies, whether it was that, when we showed up to Iowa in 2016, we weren't just showing up here because now we're in politics. Here's your token Iowan. We actually had real friends over here. And honestly, the biggest thing I get is thanks. It's someone telling us, thank you for the sacrifices that your family is making because you didn't need this job, right? The presidency wasn't the next natural progression for my father like it would have been for Hillary, where it's her turn, right? He'd actually done things in the real world. He needed this job, frankly, like a hole in the head, especially understanding the resistance that he was going to get. And one of the most important things you guys should all know about Donald Trump, because I think it's sort of indicative, another one of the stories I told in the book, was really on that day, on June 16th, 2015, when we went down in the elevator, right, before he went on the infamous now escalator ride to announce his candidacy. He looked us in the eye and he says, now we find out who our real friends are. But what it tells you two things. A, it tells you he understands how the real world works. But more importantly, it tells you that he understood what he was getting into regardless and did so anyway. And I think real Americans, I think they recognize that. They see the results in their jobs. They see it in their paychecks. They see it at the lowest levels of the economy, where it actually should be going on and where people have talked about for decades actually adding that boost, but have never been able to do it. And it's because you have someone making decisions who's actually signed the front of a paycheck for the first time. It's just not a part of our political society these days. You're lifelong politicians and you jump progression to progression. This is someone who's actually done it. And so what we see day in and day out is thanks. Even for those things where it's controversial, we appreciate you actually taking this fight. How come no one's ever talked about China trade? How come no one, for 50 years, we know it's been a disaster. We know they've been ripping us off. We talk about free trade, but we understand what they're actually doing in practice on the other side, but no one had the guts to take them on. Just like you could never renegotiate NAFTA. It's impossible. It's been there for 20 years. It's never going to happen. And as they are pushing the Russia hoax, meaning the Democrats are pushing the Russia hoax, he's signing the USMCA. As they're pushing and signing the articles of impeachment, he's signing an unprecedented, never seen trade deal with China. That's the difference between the two sides. And again, the American people recognize it. I mean, I think the fact that he's been as vocal about it because he has pushed back, because he's also done the unconventional and not just, again, taken the loss or just been really demure about being attacked all the time. He actually hits back. I think people are starting to fully understand why he has to. Again, when you take that kind of incoming, when the entire family, frankly, takes that incoming, you saw what they tried doing to me for, 2 years, minor details. I think they get it now. And, I joke, if I'm getting a little long-winded in this one, I'm sorry, but I tell the story just because it's so indicative of sort of the world in which we live right now, of Kimberly and my last Valentine's Day. She dragged me to a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York, not exactly a conservative stronghold, okay? So I'm sitting there miserable, wondering when, you have one of these clowns that's sort of a plant or whatever it is going to come and say whatever it is or do what they tried to do to Eric in Chicago, all these sort of disgusting things. So I'm not really having a good time. 90 minutes goes by, we pay the bill, reluctantly we walk out, and this older lady walks up to me in a smaller place, right? So everyone hears it, and she screams, "You!" And I'm like, oh, here we go, right? I don't need the headache. It's not what I want. I'd be happy just cooking at home. "I love you guys." And she's screaming it, though. "You guys," and this was not, again, this was a Upper East Side New Yorker, very clearly, right? "You guys don't care. You have the guts to say what needs to be said. You're just doing it. You push through it." She used a couple more colloquialisms that I probably won't say in a press conference in Iowa. But the entire restaurant is looking, and I'm thinking all those people that I thought were giving me side-eye for 90 minutes, they get up. And they start clapping. And we spent the last half an hour of that evening taking selfies in a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York. So everyone there actually got it. But it took that one little old lady to be the catalyst, to break the ice, to make it okay to like Trump. And that's because the media has done a very effective job of, if you like him, you must be, you heard Buttigieg, you must be a racist. If you want American taxpayer dollars to go to benefit American kids, your kids, you must be a terrible human being if you want to live your American dream, rather than export it, like it's been our only net export for the last 50 years, right? Real people get it. They see through the nonsense. They're not buying it anymore. It's why alternative media has taken this thing. So if that can happen in the Upper East Side of New York, it's happening everywhere, guys. I can promise you that.
Thank you, Don. I got to say, I've always said about the president, read character of a man through his children. I get lucky to work with these guys every day. It's unbelievable. You got to say, these kids are amazing, I have to say. I can call them kids. I'm older than all of them. All right, another question. Go ahead. Yeah, she got the mic right there.
Thank you. Miriam Elder from BuzzFeed News. I'm wondering what you guys are thinking watching the Democratic caucus tonight. Who do you think is looking strong? And I understand that the campaign's position is that the president could beat any of the candidates, but is there someone that you are particularly excited to potentially fight against?
Well, first of all, I got to say it's a little deja vu for them because I can see Bernie trying to get messed with the same way the president got messed with back in our caucus. I can already see the establishment. I mean, some phone calls are happening.
We saw what happened the last time they rigged the election.
Yeah, so, I continue to think that tonight will be a real answer. Like, I think Bernie, and what happens to him is going to be real, what the future of this, for the primary is going to be for the Democrats. We'll see. There's a lot of changes, and I think Bernie will do well. I don't think. Oh, sorry.
You caressed me very nicely. So.
Yeah, no worries. Overall, look, the president, he's a fighter. I've never sat with him one time and he goes, "That's the guy I want," or the woman. He would take all of them on. I would. He's that kind of guy. That's his character. He's tough. He's never sat in front of me and said, let's not get this one or get this one. And Corey knows that, and all the other people, and Mick and David Bossie here, all sat in front of him. I've never seen him back down from a fight. I think he understood when he won in 2016. It was the start of this fight, not the end of it. And he sees 2020 even, he's ready. And I'm excited. And I think tonight will be a real test on the Democrat side.
By the way, I think one thing that should be pointed out is, while obviously it seems like there's a good surge in Bernie and obviously a lot of support, Joe Biden's had Iowa to himself for, 3 weeks? because of the impeachment sham. So you can see, but whether that's by design, I don't know if you believe that, Kevin, or not, maybe, but, Nancy Pelosi actively trying to keep Bernie off of the trail. So, I mean, I would hope that with 3 weeks unfettered access to Iowa in a primary, if Biden doesn't win big, I mean, he's probably in a lot of trouble, right? I mean, if he doesn't win big after having 3 weeks while all of his real competition is sitting in D.C. going through Nancy's hoax, I mean, I think there's some big problems there. But again, if it ends up being Biden because they set it up, as I said, the last time they rigged a primary, it worked out really well for us. We got the perfect candidate to run against. And, given the history and, given all of the other things we see about his competency on the stage, it's one thing to hide him in a field of 17. It's another to try to hide Joe when he's one-on-one with Trump for 6 months. And that is a fight I would pay a lot of money to see.
Hi, Ginger Gibson with Reuters. This is a show of force. You have House leadership, you have cabinet secretaries. We've not seen previous presidents up for re-election make this kind of show of force in the primary. What is the motivation behind this? And is it in part to change the topic or the discussion or take away in some way, move the discussion away from impeachment as that's unfolding in the Capitol right now?
There's a few points here, but I'll tell you, unfortunately, the media doesn't tell a lot of truth about us, so we have to show up in force, so they have to write it. I think this president is building a real organization. Everyone said he couldn't do that, couldn't do this. It's always he can't, and then he just keeps doing and doing and doing. We saw that last night with the Super Bowl ad and criminal justice reform. If we don't go out and show it, the media filter buffers it. We do focus group after focus group. And one of the most amazing thing I hear at the end of every focus group is people go, I don't think I'm hearing the real story. One time after another after another. We just did one in Charlotte, and there was a group full of women, and they just go, why do we never hear this? Is this true? And unfortunately, the world we live in now, sensationalism and supporting an ideology for Democrats is the future of what the media thinks they need to do. And I know a lot of the media push back on this, but I'm going to tell you, we're here in force to show the American people that this is a real movement. This president is serious about 2020, and we're going to build an organization because one thing about this base and the growing base that's occurring right now is they love this president, they love this country, and they're willing to fight for it. And today is the first step in that fight. Thank you, everybody. See you this evening.
All right, so those were the Iowa remarks from Trump family as well as President Trump's campaign manager. Now let's go back out to the Senate floor.
You know, those people who go around and seek influence, perhaps dark money or endorsements from foreign governments. Will this become some sort of norm because we're not acting? I know we already know what the dark, murky world of Paul Manafort looks like. That is why it is so important for us to be clear here. Seeking, requesting, and accepting interference in a U.S. campaign is wrong. It's not inappropriate. It's not just improper. It is illegal. By calling it improper or turning a blind eye in this case is enabling more election interference. What is not clear is who are all the president's men in this administration who are helping him abuse this power. Is he using this office for political gain? And how are they accomplishing this task for him? It is so disappointing to see that this might be happening in our nation. Where will the